Shalom royalty, it's Ellie here, and I'm going to read you guys the verse of the day. It has me a little thrown off as far as like the full meaning of it. Hold on 1 second. All right, I don't know the full meaning, but one of the parts of it is dear to my heart actually. So it's James 1:27. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, and to keep himself unspotted from the world. And when it talks about the widows and the fatherless, it's like, we have this issue of single mothers, we have this issue of orphans, we have this issue of abortion, all this stuff. And you get into the root of that. If people followed that scripture alone, then that would eradicate most of the issues we're having around those things. Because it's like, you have the pro-choice people who see it being like, women should have a choice over their body. But why are women making these decisions? It's deeper than just, oh, I had unprotected sex and I want to abort my baby. That's, no. You can't logically think that is just how the brain's supposed to go. And if that's how you think, in love, that is very demonic. This is kind of personal, but there was a woman who my husband was having an affair with, and they had 2 abortions. Now, not only were they having unprotected sex, they were having adulterated unprotected sex. She was also married. And they had 2 souls to be slain. It goes deeper. It goes way deeper than just, oh, it's an accident. No. That it wasn't an accident, and that not even to point fingers either. So before me and my husband were married, I thought about having an abortion, but I ended up having a miscarriage. So God really saved me from having to make that decision. He was like, just be careful next time. And my son was born after that period. So it wasn't where I had to make that full decision, but it was on my mind. And I was like, okay, now, after living some life, some years later, it's like seeing how rampant that situation is. It really makes me think about, I didn't know that it was James 1:27, but I knew that there was a verse that was talking about pretty much how we have to help the widows and the orphaned. And so I put single mothers in there too, because having a deadbeat dad is the same as having no dad at all. If the mom can't find the dad, she's basically a widow. It's equivalent in my book, according to how society is today. Because it's like this. Back in the day, men just didn't believe their kids. I don't recall any Bible stories like that besides Ishmael. And that was very different. It wasn't Abraham was a deadbeat. He wanted to keep Ishmael and Hagar. But, that was a situation done in sin. Sarah wasn't okay with it. And God allowed a way for them to be taken care of. So it's just a little different nowadays. Having a deadbeat dad, that word there, dead. Basically, the single mother is widowed. And so when we get to that topic of why are women getting abortions, they say they can't afford kids. They say, well, that's one of the reasons, but they say they can't afford kids. They say that they can't afford to take off work, different things like that. On the other hand, it's like, if I want to send my child to an orphanage, there's so much trafficking that goes on in orphanages, and I would much rather, not suffer that person to go through that. Even though they don't know that they would definitely go through it, it is a high possibility, and that is a fear. So sometimes when women get abortions, they think they're doing the right thing by not putting a child into a bad situation. But here's the thing. What does that say about the pro-lifers? Shouldn't you guys be putting, well, you guys meaning me included, I'm pro-life, but the politicians, I mean specifically, shouldn't the politicians, the pro-life politicians, be putting more effort into our orphanages and for our, making sure that mothers and fathers get proper paternity leave and maternity leave? Shouldn't they make it more of an effort to assist mothers? When I was early in my pregnancy, I had food stamps and I was on WIC. So I had EBT and I was on women, infants, and children nourishment assistance. So I was able to have all the food I needed. And, that's pretty much it. And I think if I wanted to, I could have gotten Section 8, but, it's like a complicated process for a whole bunch of that stuff. And it's like, biblically, we're supposed to take care of the widowed and the fatherless. So, the mothers. So it's like, if it's so hard for us to take care of these vulnerable individuals, who's really to blame for all the abortion? I'm just saying, we don't have proper sex education. We don't really have anything. So it's like, people can be upset with the liberals all they want over the abortion issue. But it's like, who's really at fault here? Of course, they're the ones making the decisions, but why are they making their decisions? And that's what you have to look at more so than, oh, you're killing a soul and God doesn't want you to do that. Well, maybe they just don't feel responsible. And if someone feels responsible enough to have sex, unprotected sex at that, without birth control or, birth control slip up or whatever the situation is, and they don't feel responsible enough to have a child, then there's some reprogramming that needs to be done for our youth to understand, like, hey, look, this is what sex is. And it's not, of course, it's not just about having kids, but that's the main point of it, is you have children. So understand that you're not supposed to have unprotected sex. And so when you get into that topic of, what if someone does become an orphan? What if someone does become a single mother, or a widowed woman? You take care of them. Like, that's why when there's natural disasters, they say women and children first, women and children. That's the right thing to do. The thing is, it's not that, nobody cares about men, but men are natural born survivors. Adam was here before Eve for a good amount of time. God just saw, he was like, oh, it's not good for him to be alone. But he was surviving. He was living. It's not like he was there like, oh, I'm going to kill myself. Like, no, it wasn't like that. It was just like, oh, man, I should create, somebody for Adam to commune with, because the animals, they're not quite at his level. So he created woman. And also, too, when it comes to feminism, women were equal to men. Yes, that's a historic fact. But when the situation happened, when certain eyes were opened and God was disobeyed, women had to take a step down. That doesn't mean that women are worth less than men. It's just the man is the head of the household when they were equal at one point in time. But it's something that we have to understand. And I'm not saying step down. I don't even think, women can provide financially for the household in this day and time. I think that's okay. But you still have to understand that men and women have different insight on different things. Where I was talking to someone about this yesterday, where women tend to be aggressive, men tend to be passive. Where men tend to be aggressive, women tend to be passive. If you notice, it is a cycle and it goes back and forth. It's not that the man's supposed to do everything or the woman's supposed to do everything. People have this strange misconception that somebody's supposed to be more powerful than the other. Being the head of household is one thing, but being the helpmate is another thing. So it's not necessarily like helping is a spiritual gift. And so you can't look at one and be like, oh, that one's more important than the other. One's just as important. What's a CEO without employees? You can't have a business without employees. And you also can't have a job without the CEO or the founder. Everything is just as important as the other thing. So I do know some Hebrews, they don't necessarily agree with the woman providing. But hey, that's, when you get into the topic of polygamy, yeah, I believe the man should be the main provider, because it's like, you're the one choosing to take on multiple wives. I know a lot of Hebrew men like to have a lot of children, and that's one of the reasons why they like to have a lot of wives. But for a Christian or the typical believer, they typically just have one spouse. So when it comes to that power dynamic, even though the woman may be providing financially, the father could be providing the structure in the home. So let's talk about this 2020 era. The dad may be the one constructing whether the kids are, going to be homeschooled a particular way, and the type of things they're going to be learning in their homeschooling programs, or choosing whether to do virtual school. And the dad is taking care of, let's just say they're moving. They live in, let's just say California, and they're moving to another place. So he's the one picking the new location where they're going to be moving to. It's just a matter of changing the dynamic of things. It doesn't mean that the woman who makes more money is bad. Because in Proverbs 31, it tells women, it says that the woman has a vineyard. Do y'all know what a vineyard is? That's a bunch of land, okay? I don't really understand what's wrong with women having money, or even having more money than their husband, because it doesn't even say in Proverbs 31 that the man had more money than the woman. It does say that, Proverbs period is mostly it's directed at the man regardless, but anyone can take wisdom from it. But specifically talking about Proverbs 31, it says that, does it say her husband welcomes her at the gates, or her children praise her, something like that, where it's like she's provided a lot of honor by her family for being who she is. And so it's not necessarily about, oh, I have to do everything my husband says. You're supposed to honor his word, but you can still give your opinion, and you can talk to God yourself in situations, and weigh whether what he said was God breathed or out of his ego. And even sometimes women know we go with the man's ego to appease him, depending on the situation, if it's not going to be like detrimental to anything. But, I know this topic, this video is kind of all over the place as far as topics go. But I just think that it's an interesting place we're all in right now, as far as understanding how to live a biblical life in today's time. When people talk about, it's a new world, it's changed, that's Old Testament, all that stuff. It's like, well, there's still a lot of things in the Old Testament that we still have to honor. I don't think that just because it's the Old Testament means that everything goes out the window. I know one of the more extreme things is having short hair as a woman. And, people will be like, well, that's Old Testament talk. You don't have to keep your hair long. We're in the New Testament. And it's like, well, that's one of those things. I've always had a big thing with my hair, regardless. So, if God decides to speak to me about that in a different way, then okay. But as of right now, I'm growing my hair out. I didn't know that it was even a biblical thing for women to have long hair. And so that's just what my thoughts are today. I'm going to show you guys these icicles outside of my house. And honestly, I've been seeing people have these words, and they're based on the snow. And I'm like, I found them kind of corny. I didn't watch them. I just read the titles and stuff. But I was like, oh man, that's kind of corny. Like, people are giving words about the snow. But at the same time, God speaks to everybody in every way. So it's, I can't point fingers or laugh or anything. It's just, I do find it amusing though. Look at this. Look at these icicles. What the heck? What the heck? Look at this snow. It's wow. That's all I can say. That's all I can say, man. You know, like I said in my last few videos, that's God's lockdown for you, where a lot of us aren't doing anything. So, you know, I'm not going to say God gave me a word according to the snow, or I saw something in the snow to share with you guys, but all I know is that COVID ain't got nothing on snow and ice. You want to keep people in their houses? Make the roads dangerous and make sure they can't drive. Oh, but I'm going to go ahead and go, royalty. Shalom. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.